Okay, so now let's connect our spring to our joints here. So here we've got our group 1, which is actually responsible for squashing. We still have these circle. Um, let's hide all that. Because it is important that we keep it, because that affects our history here, so we want to make sure that we keep all of these together. So we're going to create a group. Let's call it main spring group, and we're going to take this group and simply parent it to the joint here, to this bottom joint. Hit P to parent, and let's see how it behaves right now. Let's grab our locator, and notice that right now it's all moving together. So the next step is actually to animate the spring. So whenever we're stretching this out, we want that spring to expand. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use these two locators, and we're gonna create a measure tool, distance. Let's go here. Right now I'm just gonna click two locators here in the scene, and then what we're gonna do next is we're gonna snap them to show all. Yeah, here's our locators here. Let's hide everything, polygons, and that grid is in my way, so I'm gonna hide that as well. Hide joints, hide NURB surfaces and NURB curves. Just want to see these locators. Okay, so here's our measure tool, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna point snap, so we know exactly what the distance is here. So these are our measuring locators, and we would want to keep them there, because as we move that measure distance, the distance information changes. And there we go. And what we're gonna do next, we're gonna do something a bit more complicated. We're gonna go into a hypershade, open up our hypershade, and the next thing, we're gonna create a couple of utility nodes here. So we're gonna need to go under utilities here, and we're gonna use multiply divide, because simply, it always, this distance information changes, and every one of you will have a different distance. And another thing what we need to do is let's see, well, let's take one step at a time. What we're gonna do is actually that's all that we need to load our distance tool. So let's select that in here, and let's select our multiply divide, so when we're graphing, both of them will show up. So graph input output connections. So again, here's our distance tool. There it is. Right now this is the distance that we're getting, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna connect the distance to input 1. So we're gonna right click here, actually go on, right click, or let's just grab this one, right click, distance, and drop that distance into, into the input 1 X. We're just using one of these just for multiplying. Okay, there we go. And as that information gets passed to multiply divide, then what we want to do is whatever comes out of this node, we want that to be connected to our group scale Y. So this is our group with the scale Y information, just to show that. This is the scale Y. We want that to change based on the multiply divide information that comes out. So let's have this selected. Let's have this selected and also load that into our hypershade. So now I've got group and these two nodes selected, because when I'm graphing I want to be able to reload everything here. So the next step would be to actually take the output from X, and plug that into a scale, and it's going out of the screen here. So output X, oh, come on, output X-axis gets plugged into scale Y, just like that. So at this point you can actually see how our spring shoot all the way up, and the reason is because right now the scale Y gets a full distance. So what we need to do next is go to a multiply divide node, and what we're gonna change here is we're gonna change multiply to a division, and we're simply going to divide it by that same original distance, so which will give us total of 1 in scale, and as it changes it will change accordingly, and we should get a good result. So let's go ahead and hide that, and let's take a look at what we're getting. So here, okay, we're not changing the distance yet, because what we need to do as a last step is to take our locator, not this one. With this one we can actually delete. This one we just used to snap, and let's delete this one. So here is our actual locators. Notice that right now spring is behaving properly. Let's take this locator, parent it to the bottom joint, and let's take this locator and parent it to the top joint, so it stays with that. At this point we should have a fully functional piston with a wire, or there we go. So you can see how it nicely stretches out and squashes. The rest is probably would be to do some more cleaning up, where you can actually, if you want, you can actually increase that and adjust where the top of that spring is. And we can definitely just take a whole bunch of these elements and just hide their visibility, so we don't need to actually see them. Just hit 0 on all of these stuff. We don't need to see our IKs. We can also hide them and so forth, just to keep our rig clean. The only thing that we need is these locators and of course the geometry to render. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Have fun.